Okay, let's work on fixing a bug here. So we have pretty good test coverage, but I usually still like to click around my app to make sure everything is working correctly. So that's how I discovered this bug. So let me reproduce it here. We're logged in. This idea is voted for. We go to the show page. We unvote this. So it's 19 and we haven't voted for it. So this shows the correct state. But if I go back, you'll see that it's not reflected here. It's still showing 20 and voted. So obviously if I refresh the page, that will fix it. So it goes to 19. So let's reproduce that again and actually click the button. So it's going to show 19, go back, and it's showing 20. And remember, it's 19 and we haven't voted. So when I click this, it's going to try and delete a vote that doesn't exist. And there's the error. Call to member function delete on null. So that's happening here in the, not here, in the idea model right here. Can't find anything. So it shows this error here. So let's go ahead and fix that, and then we'll work on the other case as well. So it looks like we have to make sure that the vote exists. So let's do vote to delete equals this. And then we can check if it exists. Okay. Now we can check if there is one. So we can just do if vote to delete, then delete it. So vote to delete, delete. Okay. Now this will actually work, but I also want to throw an exception here. So let me remove this and say else. And I'm going to make a new exception here. So let's do PHP artisan make exception. And let's call it vote not found exception. Okay. And we can throw that exception here. So say throw new vote not found exception. Okay. So now in our Livewire component, so I'm just going to fix it on the idea index and then I'll paste it to the idea show page. I want to do a try catch here. Actually, before I do that, let's just see if we get the exception now instead of this error. So I'm going to refresh. Let's do the same thing. Actually, just start at 20, refresh, do the same thing. So unvote here, go back, shows 20, click it, and now we get this new exception. Okay. So now we can try and catch it in here. So say try this and catch the exception we just created. And this will only happen in this specific case. So when we try to remove a vote and it doesn't exist. So let's catch that exception. So vote not found exception. Okay, say E. And we actually don't have to do anything in here. So let's just do nothing. And we still want to do this to update the state. And this will bring us back to the correct state. So let's try that again. And it should work now. We shouldn't get an error. Let's refresh. Put it back to 20. Refresh again. And let's try that again. So go here on vote. Go back. Still going to show 20. But if I hit vote, it's going to go down to 19 and fix the state. But it won't try to, actually it will try to, it's going to catch the exception, but it won't do anything else. And it does work. So now we are back in the correct state. So if I hit refresh, it should still show 19, and it does. So let's handle the other case as well when we're trying to add a vote and that vote already exists. So I'm going to bring this back to 20. And actually, let's bring back to 19. Let's go to the show page. Let's bring it up to 20. So the correct state is 20 now. But if I go back, it's still going to show 19. So that seemed to work for some reason. Let's try again. So I'm going to hard refresh a few times. 19. Let me refresh again. So 19. We go to the show page. We upvoted 20. 20 is the correct state. If I hit back, it's showing 19. Okay. So now if I try to vote, this already exists in the database. So it's going to throw some query exception, I think. Yes. So we get duplicate key and we get a query exception. So let's go ahead and fix this as well. So back to our idea model. And instead of just creating the vote, we also have to check if that vote exists. And if it does, we can throw a new exception. So let's do that. So we already have that method we created a few videos ago called is voted by user right here. So we can make use of that. So if it's already voted by this user, then throw a new exception. So if this is voted by user, and we're passing in a user here, then we can throw a new exception. So let's make a new one again. Let's call it duplicate vote exception. Okay. And let's throw that here. Throw new duplicate vote exception. Okay. So again, if we try the same case, we should get this new exception now. So let me just remove this, bring it back down to 19. Okay. Refresh 20, go back, should show 19. Okay. When I upvote, it's going to throw that new exception. And it does. Cool. So we can do the same thing here. Let's just try and catch in the Livewire component for this case right here. So let's do that as well. Try this, catch that new exception, catch duplicate vote exception E, and do nothing. And the state should update itself and everything should be back to the correct state. Okay, so let's try that one more time. So back to 20, let's go back down to 19. Let's hard refresh. Here, upvote back, should show 19. But now when I click vote, it should update the state, but not try to perform that. Actually, it does try to perform it, but we're catching it and doing nothing. And it does work. Cool. So if I keep clicking it, it should work now. Okay, cool. So let's just make sure that we have the same in our idea show, because it can happen there as well. So it's pretty much the same thing. Let me just copy all of this. Go to our idea show. And we can replace all of this. Okay. You have to import these. And it should work there too. So let's just make sure it still works normally. And it does. Cool. Okay, so let's write a test to make sure we handle this case. So I'm just going to write a unit test in this case. You can write a feature test if you want to, but I'm okay with just a unit test. So let's go to our idea test. And let's add one here after the voting test here. So let me duplicate this. And let's call it C, voting for an idea that's already voted for throws exception. Okay. So we have to make sure that we voted for it already. So we need a vote here. I'm going to grab this one. Okay. Let's paste it here. So now when we call idea vote user, this should throw an exception. So this right here should throw an exception. So we can do this expects exception, and we can pass it the exception it's expecting. So duplicate vote exception class. Okay. Sorry, it's expect exception. Okay. And let's run that. Hopefully it passes. And it does. Cool. So let's make sure that it fails if I remove this. So I won't throw an exception if a vote already doesn't exist. And it does fail. Cool. So let's put that back. So let's do the same for the remove case. So I'm going to grab this. Just paste it down here underneath the remove test. Let's call it removing a vote that doesn't exist throws exception. Okay. So this time we're not starting with a vote, so we can remove this. The exception that we're expecting is vote not found exception. So let's import that. Vote not found exception. Okay. Class. And we want to call the remove vote method so that exception is thrown. Okay, so that should work, hopefully. And it does. Cool. So just to make sure, let's add that vote here. So this should fail when I have an existing vote. Okay, let's run that again. It does fail. Cool. Let's remove that. And let's run our entire test suite again. And everything is still passing. So just to make sure, one more last browser test. Let's go back to the main page here. Let's start with 20. Let's go in here. Let's downvote it to 19. Let's go back. It's going to show 20. But if I hit vote, it should still work. And it does. Cool. So we can make a new commit here. Git add. This is episode 21. Git commit episode 21. Fix back button bug when voting.